Hello, I'm Kurt Lidke, Executive Director of Klamath Film, and you just watched The Trunk, a film about a woman using a very unique skill to evade a potentially awful situation. With us is the film's director, Ray Robison. Ray, thank you so much for joining us again. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. I've been to the Klamath Independent Film Festival several times and always enjoy attending. And it's run so well. So I appreciate being here again and being able to show my work here again.
Yeah, this is not your first experience with having a film in the Klamath Independent Film Festival. Congratulations on being back. And this also isn't your first Klamath experience, as earlier this year you shot your next film here in Klamath Falls that, who knows, maybe we'll get to see it at the 2022 Klamath Independent Film Festival.
Well, yeah, I certainly hope so. And you know, it takes a lot of work to make even a short film. And the one that we just completed filming in Klamath Falls will probably run 10, 12 minutes, but we had three very long days, nights filming, as you know, Kirk. And it'll take a while to come together. I spent the morning starting to go through the footage, and it will be quite a process to get the whole thing completed. But looking forward to getting that one done, and hopefully people will see it in Klamath Falls next year.
So, The Trunk, where did the concept for a ventriloquist being assaulted come from?
Well, you know what's really interesting about The Trunk compared to all the other films that I've made, and I've made a lot since I went to film school. I was starting at age 19. I've been doing this a while. Normally, you wait for that inspiration, something to motivate you, a concept that's going to drive you. Actually, because of the pandemic, because things were locked down, because it was so difficult to make a film, because of restrictions. I was just at that moment where I was like, I wanted to make a film, but I didn't have the inspiration other than I just wanted to make a film. So I was actually waiting for my wife, sitting outside. She had a doctor appointment. So I'm sitting outside in my car, waiting for her, going, Guy, I need to make a film. And I really just started the wheels turning for what can I do and what can I do with the restrictions that we currently have. So that's how I developed the idea of The Trunk, and you know, some of the variables being that it's outdoors and the actors are intentionally trying to stay away from each other, and then just the cast of two. So it really grew out of a desire to make films other than a very specific inspiration that hit me. And that's a little bit unique in the way that I approach most of the films that I make. But it seemed to work. I mean, once the idea hit, it was like, wow, I like that idea. It always, and I do like doing films that have a bit of a twist at the end, as The Trunk does.
It is interesting. I was really concerned that we wouldn't get a lot of films this year for the film festival because we exclusively take made in Oregon films, and when all of the lockdowns started to occur, I figured, well, anything that was in production has basically been shuttered. But it was really encouraging to see. We actually got the second most film submissions we've ever had this year. And that was people finding a way like yourself to just simply make films because there's only so much sourdough bread you can bake before you have to, before that itch comes back saying, I have to figure out a way, some way, somehow to get back into the creative process again. So kudos to you, sir, for being one of those selected. We actually are showing the most films we ever have in the history of our festival this year with 45 films, which is a
Wow,
testament to
congratulations.
not just yourself, but filmmakers all across Oregon that, like yourself, said, I really need to create somehow. Just that itch started like, man, I can't just sit at home and do nothing. I have to actually get out and do a thing.
Right, and actually, you know, with The Private Dance, which is the film we just completed, we wrapped on in Klamath Falls last week. That we started filming that in the fall of 2019 with the intention of, okay, we'll finish it off in the spring of 2020 when the weather improves to get some of these shots. And that was one that basically we had to hold off on over a year to finish that film because of COVID. And like you just mentioned, in between that time, it's like I just cannot wait around for over a year to be working on another film. So that's where the trunk grew from. But fortunately, things went so well, and now we've got finally have the private dance is in the can. So it's you do find a way to scratch that creative itch.
I find the actors in this film very interesting. I know I've seen the male lead in multiple films that have also been submitted to our festival. And in this, he does a really good job of just being beyond skeevy from the instant he shows up on screen. Just like total pervert overload. Had you worked with these actors previously? Because they definitely came across well for the circumstances of, okay, this guy is obviously a total scumbag, and you can immediately sense the kind of, oh crap, get away from me vibes from the female lead as well.
I had, and they are both local, and I've worked with them several times in the past. And Scott Ford, he is just so great to work with, and the nicest guy. But yes, he can come across on camera as being very scary and very threatening. Which the first film I used him in, that was how I'd cast him in that same manner. But certainly run the gamut of different characters for him to play, and he does film here in Southern Oregon, obviously, but also does some theater. So some of our viewers out there may have seen him locally at the Oregon Cabaret Theater in Ashland, the dinner theater there. He's done a number of performances there, and maybe in this next Christmas show. I know he's auditioning for that. And Hannah Piercy, oddly enough, I had some auditions done several years ago, and I'm going through the footage, just seeing who else was there. This is for a different project, and I noticed her, and I thought, well, I'm going to call her up and see if she's interested in working on a film, a different film, the one she had auditioned for, and she was, and she's been great to work with, very, very talented in so many ways, an SOU student from Crescent City, actually. She just graduated from SOU, so I don't know that she'll be around the area much longer or not, but also just a joy to work with, very easygoing, very talented, and she was Miss Rogue Valley a couple of years ago as well. So, but it's amazing the talent that you can find out there, and for me, when I find people like that I enjoy working with, you do tend to keep calling them back. If you find a role that fits them, you definitely want to work with them again. And I've been so fortunate in finding so many actors in this area that are willing to work on these independent film projects, sometimes not getting paid a dime, and just to be a part of collaborating in an artistic endeavor is really what it's all about. And that's why I do it. I'm not really doing this to make a living. It's definitely more the art than making money.
This film seems uniquely suited for filming during a global pandemic because it's shot in an open air space. You have a crew, or you have a cast of two, I'm sure a minimal crew, and you shot this in the early stages of the pandemic when, oh, how naive we were thinking that this thing was only going to last a few weeks or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So how did you manage to shoot this when the restrictions were at their strictest? How did you structure a crew and structure filming for it when most people couldn't actually shoot anything?
Well, one thing is to call upon the people that you've worked with in the past. When a crew clicks, and everyone's skill set, then you can pick the people that can give you the minimal crew that you can do it with. And certainly in developing the concept for it, it was more than, it is more than just social distancing. part of this. It is also how can you make the production happen with a crew as efficiently as possible and get everything you want out of it. Some ideas, some screenplays are going to just require more from a production side, a technical side, than you may be able to accomplish during a pandemic. So that, beyond what was going on with the actors, what was going on with the whole story was a consideration when building the production, so that it could be done very efficiently with the crew being kept safe. And of course, part of that was going with a very minimal crew.
Did you manage to fit this film into a single night shoot?
Yes, we did. And we shot this. Actually, the original idea was to shoot it, and we had it all scheduled, but we were going to shoot it out on a road. So the initial idea was that her car had broken down and had been pulled over to the side of the road. And I had a location for that picked out around Immigrant Lake. And but then we're looking at the weather forecast. It was going to be pouring rain that night, and of course you've got everyone scheduled for that night, and we kept holding off as long as we could. But then decided, well, what can we do to make this happen, considering the weather forecast? So we moved it inside a parking garage, which allowed for that open air feel. Well, allowed for it to be open air, and yet we were covered entirely.
Right.
By the level above us. So it worked out really well that way. And actually, I must admit, it's sort of the necessity mother invention kind of idea, where I really like the parking garage as the location for this, more so than I think my original concept would have been. So actually, I think it turned out better because of the location we were forced into because of the weather than it would have been based on my original concept for the film.
Who did the dummy voice, or was that actually Hannah throwing her voice? Is that like her skill since she was part of pageants and whatnot?
No, actually, and that would have been kind of funny. That as a Miss Rogue Valley contestant, if ventriloquism would have been her talent, but she's a singer and a pianist, and very talented at those. So actually, Twinissa Cox was the voice for that, and she designed the puppet in that as well. So we had her do the voice, and one of the considerations in that is, you don't want to give it away by making it sound like Hannah as the voice coming out of the trunk. And that was one of my concerns, that, I didn't know that if Hannah could basically pull off making her voice so different sounding that no one would even think that was her voice being thrown. So that's why I thought, no, it's probably going to be safer to go with somebody else doing that voice, so people don't go, that sounds like Hannah, and then start putting two and two together earlier than I wanted them to.
Right.
So we had Twinissa do that voice.
Any bloopers or really lighter moments that stand out in memory from the film shoot, or was it a pretty clean production overall in a single night shoot?
It was really pretty clean. I can remember a couple of times, because we were in a parking garage and it was raining, and apparently people who longboard and skateboard also realize that when the weather's like that, if you go up to the top level of a parking garage, it's all downhill. So we had a couple of times we had to wait for people skateboarding to come floating by us as they make the trek down. Because it's raining outside. So I did not realize parking garages were a good place to do that at night, but apparently it is. So I remember we stopped for that some. But everything else really went very smooth. I'm trying to think of anything else. No, it worked out really, really well. It was cold, of course, but and I can't really think of any other incidences that have held us back. But it was a great crew, and they certainly know how to handle things, and it's great when you have a reliable, talented crew and cast to work with, which I definitely did on this one.
What do you hope that people take away from watching The Trunk?
Um, I guess the message for me really went into the idea of resolution without violence. Is really the deeper meaning of that. You have a problem, it needs to be solved. Someone's being physically aggressive to you. Are there solutions other than violence to that issue? And I guess that's really what I was thinking in this. So she solved this problem without actually having to resort to any sort of physical confrontation. So that's the to me the center message for The Trunk.
Well, thank you, Ray, for this film and for joining us. The Trunk will be screened on Sunday, September 19th at 5 p.m. in our Southern Shorts category at the Ross Raglan Theater and available on demand all week. Thank you, Ray. Always good to see you,
Great.
sir. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, and thank you to the Klamath Independent Film Festival.